Hello, hi, good evening from India, namaste, good morning, and good afternoon to everybody across the globe. Welcome to my Legion Live show, Nothing Less Than Marvelous Tales of Venice, where every fortnight I'll be having incredible, remarkable guests on my show who will share their too. And today we have the pleasure of speaking to Nathaniel Brown, all the way from United States of America. Thank you for being here with us on my show, Nathaniel. I'm super delighted to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I am I've been anticipating having this interaction, so I'm really excited to jump in and see what we create with our conversation.
Oh, yes, that's going to be really interesting. And Nathaniel, I had been reading about you and was absolutely amazed at all that you do. You are the founder of this functional life and wellness, a speaker, writer, podcast host, and personal trainer and mentor to many. Oh my God, people are right. You are indeed a deep well to drink from.
Wow, that's become the testimony, and I didn't come up with that myself. That was something that someone said of me. So what's in my bio has been things that have been experiences of people that people
Yes.
have had of me. So this is not me tooting my horn. This is individuals saying, "Hey, you're like a deep well to pull water from and pull a drink from."
Exactly,
So
that is
yeah,
what I read. Oh, yeah,
yeah.
that's absolutely right. It is,
Mm,
I mean, absolutely right. So before we proceed, let me, speak a little bit about you, right?
mhm,
So as I mentioned earlier, Nathaniel Brown is the founder of this functional life and wellness.
mhm,
It's
uh-huh,
a personal development brand geared towards teaching and leading others into new. Since childhood, he was always curious and inquisitive to know more about how things work and questioning things that didn't add up. Every child does, he all did, isn't it? But at the age of 8, something happened that silenced him. And for nearly 3 decades, and the fallout from the trauma has taken its toll.
mhm,
After 30 years of battling PTS, night terrors, inferiority, anger, hurt, betrayal, insecurity, and misidentity. He took his own idea and dug deep into the subconscious program. After doing the deep inner work and shifting his mindset along with perspective, Nathaniel has made it his mission to help us, especially men, reconnect to who they truly are outside of the masculinity label. He believes that men and women who have taken the time to re-see their traumatic experiences with a new person, engage with life differently, and they become better fathers, mothers, husbands, wives, entrepreneurs, and leaders. Nathaniel is intensely focused on empowering you to raise your vibration, shift your mindset, heal your life, and change your world using what he calls perspective coaching, where he leads you into extracting teachings, lessons, and tools from your most traumatic experience. He understands that we all have a story, and the ones that are willing to write new one will be those that will lead others to do so.
mhm.
Wow, wow, Natalia, you are such a huge source of inspiration, I must say, and there is so much going around us since long, for of which, most of which, are visible, some of which
Yeah,
actually are visible. And
yeah,
a lot of people have faced, despair and worse form of depression during the COVID pandemic and now with whatever is going on globally. And
mhm,
they notice only what is visible to us, but
right.
however, what's happening behind closed doors is unfathomable, unimaginable, unbelievable, and goes unnoticed.
Right.
Accepting for the victim who goes through the trauma and the feeling of, hitting rock bottom.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
you are a perspective coach, right? And you
mhm,
focus on trauma and how it affects us. What
mhm.
was your most life impacted from?
My life impacting trauma was when I was 8 years old, I was sexually molested by a family member. And it's a hard thing to deal with, specifically here in the West and specifically here with the racial sort of climate we have here. It's not popular for men like me, black men, colored men, to speak about things that affected the way they think, because it was a thing in the black community that said, well, if someone had something going on in their mind, they were crazy, and the rest of the community wrote you off. Like, oh, he's a problem. Just, we gonna just not deal with this. And everything that's traumatic to the child, who is, in my case, male, gets swept under the rug. It's not actually addressed, and nor is there a platform for a voice to be heard when traumatic experiences like that happen. So silence, in the words of, I think it was Confucius that said, silence never betrayed anyone. It's your best friend. Silence literally became my best friend. It was the only thing that did not betray me. And it was the only thing that I can trust. But it caused me not to kind of develop vocabulary to articulate myself when I was frustrated.
Oh God, that's like it's really, it's really sad to know that these things do happen, and to children, because I have known a few people who have gone through this
Mhm.
during their childhood, and they have been told, and it's always a relative and who
Yeah,
says that, this is a form of love and you should never tell your parents and this is between you and me. And the child really goes through a lot of trauma because they don't know what is right, what is wrong. They know that
exactly.
something is not right, but they don't know whether we should tell, whether it's a secret, what is it?
Right.
Uh, how will that be taken? It's really, really very tough on the child.
Yeah.
They should be playing, going out in the field and playing with their friends. This is something that they are not supposed to be going through, and not
Right.
supposed to experience because it is not for them. So, how hard was it to overcome the trauma you faced from at such a young age?
Oh, wow. It was tough. Like, it literally took 30 years. The trauma happened at 8, and I literally kept it to myself. Maybe a few people knew that I was in close relationship with, but I kept it myself because the thing is, I didn't want my parents to know. I didn't want them to know that it had happened. So something had happened that caused my wife to reach out to my mother. I was just like in a space where I just was not, I was just in a really, really dark place, if you want to call it that. It was one of those like frustrating moments. I couldn't really, I didn't have the vocabulary I needed. And like you said, when trauma like that happens at a very early stage, the thing we lack as a child is vocabulary. We don't have the diction to say, hey, this is what happened and this is how I'm feeling. And that translates into anger. So, like, anger isn't something like this, just like one off thing. Anger is a byproduct of poor vocabulary around what we're frustrated about. So, because of that, it caused me not just to be silent, but to be resentful. And because I couldn't trust anybody around me, the people that I was supposed to be able to go to, I couldn't go to them because of the fear of the judgment. So I felt like I had to do this all on my own and deal with all the stuff by myself. So that's what I did. Unfortunately, and fortunately, I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about PTSD because for 30 years, I literally would have night terrors 4 to 5 times out of the week. I'd be waking up in the middle of the night screaming at the top of my lungs because I felt like something was impressing upon me. I PTSD, like I saw the world as a an opportunity for betrayal. So I didn't engage like the world had something to offer me. I engaged with the world like it was taking something from me because that's my experience. My first deep emotional experience of the universe was someone taking something that was not theirs to take. And I didn't know how valuable it was. So I gave it away without knowing what it was. It's like one of those, like, it's that thing. And it doesn't feel good to know that that happened. But in retrospect, when I re-see it, when I look at it again, it was like a traumatic moment is a plot twist in the story, right? Anytime we want to see something turn around, a trauma happens. Something happened to kind of take our breath away. If you're at a movie theater and you're watching a movie and something happens in the storyline and you, oh, whoa, I didn't expect that. It's just like, oh, wait a minute, we got to pay attention here. And it's something that's there so that we'll pay attention to it. Unfortunately for me, it happened at the age it did. It's okay now because I'm able to look, and I had to grow up and mature much faster. And in ways of communication and the way I engage than most of other people that I've known. But however, it gave me vocabulary, it gave me tools. Now I can help people and I can give them the tools of diction and vocabulary and things of that nature. So they'll have the grammar to express themselves and articulate themselves when they're frustrated about the things that they've experienced.
I'm really sorry. I mean, I'm sorry you had to endure so much for so long, but I'm glad that you are strong now and you are helping and leading people to come out of their trauma and their stress. So, what was the
Absolutely.
turning? Yeah. So, what was the turning point in your life that made you look at life from a different perspective and start your journey of giving back?
Absolutely. So it was about 2016. I had, of course, I had always been like teacher type individual, always reading, always studying, wanted to improve myself. But something happened, and I totally lost my temper in an argument with my wife. And we was like, okay, this is not gonna we're not gonna do it like this, and it caused some schisms between us and the way we were communicating, because I was sort of like, all I knew how to do was explode. It wasn't like I had any real tools. So I went to anger management. I was like, well, I'm going to go get help. Let's go to a therapist. Let's go get help. Let's see what I can come up with as far as tools, so I can use these, so I can save our relationship and save myself from self destruction. And in the therapy session, I thought we were just going to talk about anger. I had not even connected the fact that the anger was rooted in the trauma, because I didn't have the vocabulary to express how I was feeling. So once I got to the therapy sessions, we talked a little bit. They're really good about keeping it surface for a minute, and then she asked some very like deep questions, and I had to answer the question very emotionally about the molestation. I had to talk about it. It was something that I had vowed to take to my grave, but the problem was it was actually sending life into a grave for me, because I wasn't giving it full expression. So we took some time and we dealt with it. And I don't know that I've ever cried that much in my entire life. Like I had sort of not cried for 30 some odd years. I just didn't allow myself to feel tears or feel hurt or anything, or feel pain. I was numb. And that series of meetings caused me to let out this flood of emotions that I had not been familiar with. And it was very uncomfortable. But that started the process of me discovering who I am, what I have to give, and how I can serve in that way. So I started really going in and just kind of just pulling up the pages of my life and like, wait a minute, let's look at this again. Is this really what this is? Because my issue was meaning. It was this word because that I kept hearing that kept my ears perked up. And anytime I'm working with someone one on one, or I'm talking to someone one on one, I'm listening for the story. And the story is always connected to the because. Anytime someone says, I did this, the reason that they did it is in the because. The word because in here in the Western English starts what we call a prepositional phrase. It means this is your preposition. This is where you already were before this event actually happened. Now, what you're doing is you're superimposing meaning on top of it. So I decided to change what my past meant to me. And when I detached from the meaning I had for it and reallocated a new meaning, the story unfolded much differently. And I started telling the story that I wanted to reward me versus the story that was robbing me of purpose.
Great idea. Because tears, what are tears actually? Tears are the physical manifestation of the emotions and pain that is bottled up inside us.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
until we don't bring that out, we'll always be closed, we'll always be frustrated, and of course, anger stems out of that.
Yep. Yep.
It
Yep.
always does. And it's
Absolutely.
always better to let go of all these things, because till we do not let go of all these things, how are we going to make space for what is better?
You said it. You hit it
Isn't
right
it?
on the head. We've
Isn't
we've
it?
got things need room to happen, and that
Exactly.
as well as anger needs room to happen. You've got to give it proper expression. The room in the science world, when you study the mechanics of how the brain works, you've got 90 seconds. You've got 90 seconds to have an emotion flood through your body as a chemical and give it expression. After that, you're creating it. You're making it all up at this point. You're creating the story. And we got to be okay with things not feeling so good all the time. We're such a feel good society that everybody wants to medicate us away from the stress, when the stress is what builds character. It's the stress that
Yeah.
builds resistance. It's the stress that builds resilience. This is the stuff we need so we can be stronger, so we can show up much more better than we have been before. And like you said, if we don't take time for anger to happen, if we don't give things room to breathe, what I have found is everything, every emotion, every expression that we have towards an event is affected by the breath, every last thing. And the journey is absolutely, completely spiritual. The word spire is the word breath, it's the word for wind. The word ritual is the routine that you do with the wind. So, what you do with your breath is your spire ritual. So, when we're breathing, when you're crying, what happens to your breathing? Your breathing has to get deeper. So, your body uses tears to trigger you to breathe properly. Right. So now we're back into the breathing. And this is like one of the foundational principles of yoga, like following, understanding the power of the breath, knowing what it does, being able to breathe deeply. And when we're able to regulate our breathing, we can regulate how we bring meaning to the events in our lives. Things won't mean as much as we want them to mean when we control the way we breathe towards it, when we control our spire ritual.
Wow, wow, that's so well explained and so beautifully. It's so thought provoking, I would say, because many people would not look at or understand the word spirituality, and the way you explained it is really beautiful. And things do happen in our life, like even I have gone through. I like what happened to you at the age of 8 years has happened to me at the age of 50. So
Wow.
I which was unexpected, and I was in deep depression that time, and I was absolutely vulnerable, but I didn't know what was happening with me. I almost gave up on my life. But
Wow.
today, when I look back, and I think that things happen in our life for a reason, and we should
Hmm.
be grateful for those things, because had not those things happened to us, how would we have been strong to stand where we are today? Today, I'm here
Absolutely.
because of what happened. And there is this negativity, there is this pain, there is, the feeling of sadness, loss. There is a low phase in everybody's life. Challenges are inevitable, things happen. But how we look at it, how we take these challenges is up to us. How we make our life is up to us, and challenges are thrown at us to make us stronger. Uh,
Right. Absolutely. We
and
need
this
challenges.
is the foundation. This is what is building us up,
Yep.
and that's when we use this as a stepping stone, make our walls stronger because of this, and that is how we grow.
Absolutely.
If
You
this
can't,
had not
you need,
happened, I wouldn't have been here. That is why.
right. You have no way of measuring growth without something to resist against it. Like the opposite, like you don't know a tree is grown unless there's a level place that it's gone deep within that can support the weight of the tree. That's called resistance. Nothing actually goes anywhere without resistance. The best form of disagreement is momentum, because when a car agrees with the road, it actually is not moving. You need
Yeah,
friction to bring you closer towards your goal, that whatever goal you're trying to attain. So you need the tires to grab the road and rub the opposite direction so that it pulls you or pushes you in the direction towards where you're heading. Well, that's called disagreement, and it's a good thing. It's resistance. It's a good thing. It's stress. It's a good thing. What you don't want is to have resistance without momentum, because then that's called burnout. So when a car
yeah,
isn't going anywhere and it's just giving all the gas with no intention of moving forward, then you're going to lose traction and you're going to spin out of control. And that's exactly what happens when we take these traumatic moments in our lives and we allow them to stop us in our tracks too long. And we end up spinning out of control for 30 years, like I did. And because there was no help, we didn't know that there was help. We didn't know that we had a place to go. There wasn't the stigma that was there around my community was that you don't talk about these kind of things, and pain will lead to suffering when we are irresponsible. And I wrote something a while back. I just decided I wanted to bring that up. But pain tells us where we need to be more responsible. Suffering happens when we are irresponsible with pain. So when we are irresponsible with the pain and settle into the story about the pain, and we live that way. So the key here is creating limitless paradigms and then living them out beyond the pain. It's okay to feel the pain, but pain is what life gives us. Suffering
Yes,
is what we turn it into when we don't allow ourselves to take responsibility for why the pain is there.
we are responsible for our life, our journey. It's everything in our hand. Nothing is external.
Yep.
Nothing is external. Everything is within us. It's
Yep.
us. We have to motivate ourselves. We have to self appreciate ourselves. We have to believe and we have to accept our flaws as well. And that is how we
Absolutely.
move ahead. And
Absolutely.
like I told, yeah, isn't it? And like I told you like earlier, I have known a few persons who have experienced the kind of trauma at the level that you did. And they do have this overwhelming experience and are in fact still going through nightmare and trauma. I've
Hmm.
seen them; they are still struggling. There were many who have gone into maybe smoking and drugs, and of course try to come out of it when it's rehabilitation because they have gone through a lot. And I
Hmm.
truly appreciate you for sharing because that's what you went through. And I'm really sorry for what you have gone through, but it is really wonderful to see how you have turned your life around for better,
Yeah,
Nathaniel.
absolutely. We have to consider that the things that
Yes,
are happening to us are happening for us and also happening from us. We are telling the world, the universe, the kinds of experiences we need in order to grow past
yes,
wherever blocks we are actually having these experiences. As a matter of fact, something that triggered me not long ago, I was looking at my parents, and I had this thought in my mind. I had allowed myself to feel some of the feelings that I had as an adult, as looking back on my childhood. And I said something, and I allowed something to come out of my mouth. And I usually don't think like this, but I was like, man, it just feels like, maybe absence was there. Maybe I'm feeling this sense of abandonment, right? And I started to see where that was coming from, and then something came up inside of me. This is a testimony to what we're saying. Everything you need is really inside of you. You just got to slow down enough and be quiet long enough for the voice of you, the higher you, the bigger you, the more universal cosmic you, the intelligent, infinite intelligent you, to speak forth, because those secrets are there. The God that is of creation is of and as you as well. That's the term namaste. It's God in as of me is bowing in respect to God in as of you. So we are one divine being to another. So like that principle, listening to the voice that came out, it was like, wait a minute, there was no absence. I just misidentified the space that was needed for me to happen. So my parents were positioned properly to be pillars to hold up a span of time for me to come into and have a place of being. And when I looked at it that way, there's no trauma. There's nothing that actually robbed me of anything. It's actually more to be grateful for, because I redefined the experience. The entire Bhagavad Gita is the experience of Krishna within, not just without. The
yes,
Krishna part of you, the part of you that is the higher you, that's speaking the inner wisdom, the higher wisdom. That's what it's all about. It's you going within. It's the song of the Lord within you. That's the Bhagavad
yes,
Gita. That's the story of all time, is that it's the song of creator within us, allowing us to create the world we want to live in. And whatever story we tell ourselves, that will be the one that reward us.
yes, right. And in fact, we have Dr. Usha Narayan. She's the former member of parliament in the National Assembly RSA. She says, wow, fantastic. Mental health illness is real. Pain is real.
Yeah, yeah, this is good. Thank you so much. Amazing.
Yes. And Nathaniel, I was going through a couple of your posts, your interviews and videos.
Hmm.
You had said something about watching this lady on YouTube. And
Yeah.
I would like to hear that from you.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you could
of course. Of
do
course
something
I'll tell
about
that story.
that.
It's a powerful story, and this is
Very
also a
powerful. Like when I heard that, I got goosebumps actually. It was
yeah, good.
amazing.
I get them every time because that's how real it was, and the experience happened inside of me. So this is a testament exactly what we were talking about. It's a great
Yeah,
segue. So
yeah,
about 2018, 2000, going into 2019, I was working on my personal training certification and stuff like that, and starting to work in gyms and stuff. And I was just in that moment of there was a lot of torrent around, not just in bad things, but like more so, I was studying things and moving into practices spiritually, meditations, and all kinds of stuff that were the antithesis to the people who were around me. It wasn't popular and it wasn't acceptable. It was considered evil. And I was like, you know what? I don't have any enemies. I don't believe in that. So I'm just going to go with my beliefs here. So I was sitting on my recliner. And for whatever reason, I wasn't going to open my phone or anything like that, but like a notification showed up on my phone from someone that was on YouTube, and I just kind of clicked on it, and it opened up to a video. It was like one of those promotional ad videos, but it was like, click on this and register, and it's a free thing, and it's a free meditation, whatever. It's like but I wasn't going to do it, and then I paid attention to my body in that moment, and my heart, like my heart space, was like warming up. I had never had that happen towards a video. Like I can feel something pulling me to the experience. So I said, okay, fine. We're going to go with it. I'm going to surrender in this moment. I'm going to let go of what I think should be happening. And I'm just going to be with it. So the minute I hit, play on the video, tears are starting to roll down my face now at this point because I am in it. It's like I just said yes to something that's going to be very, very transformational. So I'm listening to this woman. She's talking. She said, and she's leading through this experience. And as soon as she says, I want you to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. The moment I close my eyes, Alakananda, I walked through a door. I mean, this happened the moment I closed my eyes. I walked through a door, and in front of the door was a spiraling set of stairs, and they only went down. So I walked down the stairs as I felt like I should, because at the bottom there was a door that was there. I walked down, I walked out the door, and I'm standing in front of my home in South Carolina in like the 1980s. Like it's old school on in Georgetown, South Carolina. It looks just like it did. The smell, the sound, everything is there. And I walk to my house, which no one is there. The door is unlocked, it's open, and I walk in the house, it's completely empty. There's no one there. There's nothing there. And I hear a whimpering in my former a bedroom that me and my sister shared when we were younger kids. The house is relatively small. So I walked in the bedroom, and there is an 8-year-old boy sitting on a rusty box spring in the room with his face in his palms, and he is completely abandoned. And I'm like, "Oh, what's this kid doing here?" Like, I didn't know who it was. It's in my mind, I'm not thinking it. So I go up to the child and I start, talking to the child. And when he pulled his hands down, it was me. I was looking at myself at 8 years old. And
it's
I
goosebumps.
realized, yeah, it was crazy. It was me. And I
Goosebumps. Yeah.
right. I know it. I'm getting them right while I'm talking right now. And I realized that this child, me, was the part of me that was untrusting to the world. So I had to work in that moment to get the trust of the child me, the inner me, get the inner me to trust me again, to trust again, period. And when I did that, he grabbed my hand. And that's how I knew I had the trust again. And we walked out the door, and as we're walking out the door, we get into the middle of the street in front of my house. The doorway appears as we're walking towards the street. I turn around and I gesture to the child that is me, "You're never coming back here again." And we walk through the door, and the spiraling staircase appears again, and it's only going up. We get to the top of the staircase, and I'm at my now newly built home in the country where we built our home in 2019, of course. And I'm standing at the top of the driveway. We're looking at the house from a distance, and I am mentally, telepathically sending him through all the rooms of the house, showing him where my sons are, and where the toys are, and where the games are, where the television is, where all the food is, showing the abundance that's there, where my wife is, and the love that's there, all the things that felt like that it was not there. Those are the things that I was able to telepathically lead into an experience. And as we were walking through the house, in our minds, we pan back to the driveway, and all of a sudden the child looks up at me and he walks inside my body. And I felt this integration process. It was like I was split for 30 years, which is why I was having the issue. I was split. It was separation that was causing the issue. It was my belief that I was not. It was the comparisons. All those things, they split us. There's the you who you desire to be, and the you that's desiring to be connected with the you desire to be. And that you is the emotional child, the inner child, the trigger part of you, the part of you that gets triggered by the world. That's the part that you need, that we all need to reintegrate ourselves with, because that's what makes us whole. We need the temper tantrum part of us, as well as we need the logical rational part of us. And that brought me into balance. And I was able to understand play differently. I was able to understand, like, oh, okay, this is what this is. It's not, I was emotionally disconnected for so long that I had no way of understanding what emotions were there for. Now I understand. The emotional me is back. The child me is back. My perspective on the world is now, oh, no, there's no enemies. There's just more stuff to play with. There's just more people to engage. There's more lives to change. There's more people to encourage. There's more life to breathe into other people. And that experience just pushed me even further into the mission of inspiring people to live beyond their limits and be who they truly were made to be within purpose.
And your purpose has become more purposeful now.
It expands.
Oh
Absolutely.
my God. We were talking and I was once again getting goosebumps all over.
It's a powerful story. I mean, I feel it every time. Like, my,
And the thought that you got connected to a YouTube, I mean, channel
yeah,
digitally, and not even face to face, not even in person. I mean, this is
no,
unbelievable. And
no.
my God,
But
look at the power.
yeah, technology mirrors humanity. I mean, like, all technology is a artifact of the inner workings of how the psychology of man works. The email
Yeah,
idea or the text message idea, sending people a message that are not in your space. Well, that's telepathic communication. That's a part of your pineal gland is created to be able to handle that kind of communication telepathically, images and pictures and stuff like that. When people talk about drawing shapes and stuff, and then it was one time I started looking at shapes differently. I literally looked at a line one day, and I started to see the line from different perspectives, so that it was not a straight line, it was a circle. It was like I can see cycles now. Like, just having that experience, the world unravels. And it's like, oh, this is a blank slate, and we can create it and we can recreate it in whatever way we want, because to create means to extract and impress. That's what the word create means. That means you take something of original source substance and you make an impression in it. You set an intention within that substance, and then you push that image into the world you want to live in, and you create that world. There's a quote online. He says, use your weekends to create the life you want, not escape the one you have. And
yes,
that's the kind of life you want to live. You want to be taking your free time and using the tools to create the life you want to live, by changing the stories, changing what stories mean, and being able to do the inner work to know that everything you're looking for, everything you're looking to become, is already here in the present moment. You just need to silence yourself long enough, get in touch with your breathing, center yourself, and listen to the voice inside you. It's your heart saying, hey, I am here, and I am much greater than you've ever given me credit for, if you'll let me do the leading.
that's powerful, very powerful. So good, so good. Oh God. So
Thank
Nathaniel,
you.
so now we're going ahead. Most of the times we hear people raising voice for the women. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There are women's cells and organizations that fight for women's rights, speak for
Mm-hmm.
women's safety and
Mm-hmm.
security. Even the law seems to be tilted towards, more towards protecting women. And
Yeah.
personally, even I am a member of WICI, that is Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and
Mm-hmm.
Industries in the Public Safety and Security
Mm-hmm.
Council of
Mm-hmm.
West Bengal.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen many men go through abuse, domestic violence, physical, mental, emotional. I know
Yeah.
people I know personally, and that too within the closed doors of their
Yeah.
houses.
Yeah.
They go through tremendous stress as they
Yeah.
are. unable to speak out just because they are men. What will
Absolutely.
society say? And there is not much support for them legally to prove such abuses. And these men are ruled by fear. Fear of what? Fear
Yep.
of perception. What will people say? Fear of judgment, and
Yep. Yep.
everyone seems to be biased towards women,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So it is nice to know that you are on a mission to help others, especially men, to
Absolutely.
overcome their trauma. So how difficult
Absolutely.
is to help them deal with trauma and stress, especially when they feel that society will look down on their masculinity?
It's a great question. It's actually not hard at all. The men who are the consciousness is shifting universally, and men are more apt to start saying how they feel about stuff, and it's because vocabulary is more accessible. What I like to do when I'm having a conversation with men, and I've had several one-on-ones that were really impactful, even men who were looking to commit suicide, who were having suicidal thoughts. It was the way they were thinking about it, and because they were afraid that someone would think that something was wrong with them, because we as especially black men, we have to look a certain way. Why? Society, slavery, all the things that have happened has caused a psychological download throughout the generations that say, well, you can't show up as if something is ever wrong at all. Otherwise, you get nothing from society. That includes your women. So let's look at the slavery aspect. We had something in slavery called buck breaking. So they take the alpha male within slavery, whoever's the alpha male within the community of the African people, they take him and they would literally rape him in front of all the women and children. They would kill him. They would butcher him. They would literally rip his body apart in front of all of these people. So what they would do is they would start, the community would lose respect for the men of stature among them, because they would rely on the provisions of the slave master over the value and principles that the man was instilling within the community. And it wasn't that the man was the ruler of the community. The ancient civilizations, it was a matriarchal civilization. Ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, the pharaohs, the original pharaohs were females. They were women. Is a feminine term. The one who rules the house. That's a feminine term. Well, that has shifted with the religion and things of that nature. It shifted into this patriarchal thing, but it also shifted in a way that the vocabulary of feeling and emotion was stripped away, and the vocabulary of only logic and rationality was in the space. So we were not given that. So what I do when I'm having these sessions, and I give back the gift of emotional expression. I say, hey, you're really safe here. This conversation goes nowhere. As a matter of fact, I want you to feel everything you've not expressed. And the stuff that comes up, the things that will come up that men across the board are dealing with. This is not just that one-off thing. It doesn't matter what race you're in. All men are dealing with it the same way, because the internal complexities of the way we communicate, it's not that complex as a female. Your social complexities are much different because of what women have had to handle at home traditionally, taking care of the kids, doing the cooking, the cleaning, the fetching the water pails and stuff like that. That was their duty. And then men did the hunting and all those things. So those societal things, those media norms have been pushed on men in particular, and on females, that they have to sit in these roles when partnership was the deal all along. So partnership leaves and role playing comes into place. So nobody's actually joining together in matrimony at all. Everybody's just sitting there trying to play their part. And when men are just trying to play their part, they're not leading. They're not leading. And when women are just trying to play their part, they're not leading. Leading is, hey, I'm headed in a direction that I feel like is somewhere good, and I want to take you with me. Would you come? If I showed you the vision and showed you where we're headed, because that's what leadership is. The word leadership in the ancient text literally means to go somewhere. It means to take a walk. It literally means to move in a certain direction. So when I look at the word, it's the word transportation. So if I am leading properly, I am moving in a direction that's somewhere good, and I want to bring people with me. So when I'm having these conversations with men, I am saying, hey, you are a leader. There's nothing wrong with you. Everything is fine. As a matter of fact, the world is your playground. You can play as much as you want. See, giving them permission to feel. When you let a child be okay in its space, oh, you'll get all kinds of emotions and expressions. And that's what I do. I free up the space. I become that pillar for them to be able to have a space to happen into.
Men really need such support, because most of them I think are not able to open up.
Right.
It's just
Right.
because of this one. What will people say? What will society say? I'm a man. I'm a man of position. Whatever it is, people look at me differently.
Right.
I'm not supposed to be, going through
Right.
this kind of
Right.
violence. So
Right.
it's
Those
really, really
suppositions.
difficult for them.
Yep.
And men can heal. Everybody can heal. We all have the ability to heal within us. And
Yeah.
but what is needed is the desire to heal and not give up. The
That
moment you give up, everything is over. But
that's
that
it.
desire to heal has to be there within us, whether it is a man, woman. And
That is it.
the desire to use the situations that happens with us,
Mm-hmm.
as stepping stone and build ourselves up,
Mm-hmm.
like we discussed a little while back. And well, so time and again we like you said, we hear great leaders speak of believing in oneself, self belief. We always
Mm-hmm.
say that believe in yourself. We've heard so many thought leaders and inspirational leaders talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
You believe in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
isn't? But when a person is going through utmost stress, self belief sounds like a foreign language to them. What is
Absolutely. It sure
self-belief?
does. It sure does.
How we tell people, have self belief. So how do they develop this self belief, and how can they redesign their life?
It's all about what I like to call paring things down. I have something that's the best way to re-see your experiences is to make it as small as possible. Don't let it be so big, because meaning will expand things. It adds a lot of air. It's like whipping cream. All you're really doing is taking a condensed liquid and adding a lot of air to it. It's actually not something actually big at all. When you let it settle and the air leaves it, you've got a small pool, a small puddle of stuff. But you can take a few cups of cream or 1 cup of cream and fill a bowl when you put enough air in it. That's called meaning. It's the fluff, right? So it's a matter of really, really paring things down and making it practically smaller than you thought it was. So pare, Pare. It's an acronym for paring things down. The P stands for pause, right? So when you pause, you take a breath. I often say, like, the only way to kind of really assess a situation is to give it a moment. Stop, take a breath, take a moment, just breathe. Remember, we talked about this earlier. Your spiral ritual. Change the way you ritually breathe into the space that you're in. And I guarantee you what you're experiencing is gonna change. It has to. I mean, like, you change your approach, what you approach changes. Basically, how that works. The A stands for ask. Now, when we're talking about asking, we're not talking about just asking in general. We're talking about asking unbiased questions, questions that you normally would not ask, and questions that are not the ones that support what you believe already. You've got to be willing to move past that. So be objective, be unbiased, be aware of what the event is asking of you to be responsible for. And when you do that, the event gets a lot smaller and you actually start to expand. The event becomes the small space that you expand out of. Like, oh, wait a minute, it's not as big as I thought it was when I start asking these kinds of questions. And the 3 questions I like to ask anybody is, okay, so what do I want from this experience or in general? What do I believe? Because belief is what collapses waveforms into particles. And what are my choices, right? So, what do I want? What do I believe? What are my choices? And these are empowering questions, because the way to answer them is to ensure you're not answering them based on someone else's paradigm. Most of what we want is based on what someone else wanted for us. Most of what we believe is based on what we were told is the proper thing to believe in. Most of what we choose actually is based on what we were told is available to be chosen. But that's not the case anymore. So ask yourself questions that empower you to say what you want, what you believe, and what you choose, or how you will choose to engage with that belief. All right. So that's PA. R stands for respect, or to re-see. The word respect is re-see. Re means again, spect is to look at. So to look at it again, how are you looking at the situation from different perspectives? Are you actually giving it an unbiased, objective look? This is what I call being a quantum observer. That means you are and are not. You are both in and not in the event. You are the observer and you're the character within the story. You're the author and the player in the story, right? In the playwright, right? So you're the actor on the stage and you're also directing the play. You have to understand that everything has multiple perspectives. There's like we always say, it's two sides to every coin. Well, it's more than that when you look at things multidimensionally, because the edges of the coin are sides, and then the ridges have sides because they are recessed within the coin. So there's multiple sides depending on the perspective that you're viewing thing as. And the word perspectives means how you're looking forward, what you're looking forward within the event, how you're looking forward within the event. Are you looking at the event and allowing it to be too big, and you're adding more meaning, adding more air to it, whipping it up, creating that delicacy of emotional torrent? Or are you allowing things to deflate, right? Did you pause long enough? Did you breathe? Are you asking the right questions? Are you respecting the moment in a way that says, hey, I want to re-see this in the best way I can because I don't know what I don't know. That's an ancient quote from Socrates. And it's so true. We don't know what we don't know. And then last but not least, it's to embrace. This is the power of surrender. What are you willing to let go of for this experience to teach you the lesson it's trying to teach you? Be enthusiastic about that. The word enthusiasm is the word entheos. It means the God within. So this is you expressing God, the God that is in as and of you within, and expressing that outwardly. Be willing to accept what you can and cannot change. This is what some would call serenity, being willing to accept the things that I can change and the things that I can't change. I'm not even going to deal with it because there's tremendous potential in surrendering to what we can and cannot control. This is the essence of the Gita, and this is what mastery of self is all about. Full detachment from anything leads to no suffering, and when you are not suffering, then you are acting in the space as Krishna. Now you are as God is, if that makes any sense.
Wonderful, beautiful, so good. I just got so drawn into what you were saying. It's like you and that video that you connected with and went into that plan.
That's awesome. That's great. I love it. I love when that happens because we're in sync. We've moved into the like
Individual
the thing.
safe space.
I
Yes,
was going to say, like that space, like what space are we creating with the kinds of conversations we're having, especially with ourselves? I'm having a conversation with Alakananda, and
yes,
she is in a space. She moved to a different terrain, a different space than the way she was thinking, the way she was feeling that quick, because the kind of conversation we're having is settled on the foundation of vocabulary that pushes people forward from trauma to triumph.
very powerful, very powerful. So, Nathaniel, tell us about your podcast because I know that you are starting a new podcast, right?
Yes, I am. I have a
One
pot.
thing I must tell you that you have a lovely voice.
Thank you so much.
For
Thank
radio, like for a
That's funny.
podcast.
I actually do commercial and radio voiceovers. I actually have been the voice of several like tech companies. I've done voiceovers for IBM, Lenovo. I've done voiceovers for Spectrum. I've done voiceovers for ABB, which is a Swiss-based electrical technology company. I've done voiceovers for like local ad agencies, ESPN, Lowe's. I've got a crazy client list, Blue Cross Blue Shield. But like I have fun doing it. It really is enjoyable. But I'm glad that my voice has not just resonance, but I'm actually able to use it as a tool to give
You
value.
said, and you
Yeah.
got a very powerful voice, and I must hunt for all those to listen to you in those your voice
Yeah.
in those.
Yeah. Thank you so
I'm
much. So my
doing them.
that's awesome. That's great. They're all on my website too, guys. If you ever want to listen to me just talking to people, you can go to my website and I'll give that information at the end of the show.
Oh
But
yes, okay, definitely. So
yeah,
tell us
so like
about the podcast and what's
so
new coming in your life and how can people reach out to you if they
absolutely.
have to.
Absolutely. So, podcast is called Inspire Beyond. The word inspire is an acronym. So, if you type it and you put the periods after the word, after each letter in inspire, INSPIRE, and then just put the periods in between it, the word inspire means initiating noble solutions that produce innovative results through engagement. That's what inspire means. It's an acronym for me to engage the world differently, to inspire people to show up differently, show up in a way that's beyond the limits that they've created. So I started that podcast back in September, and I really enjoyed. I have about 5 episodes up right now. Got a few hundred downloads, just over 100 downloads or so. I haven't promoted it, but I am now promoting. I'm saying go listen to the podcast. There's tons of value there. I am a words guy. I love etymology, so I use words and I use vocabulary because my mission is to give people vocabulary to be able to express themselves properly and fully and more articulately. So that's my podcast, Inspired Beyond. It's on Spotify, it's on iHeartRadio, and it's on Apple Podcasts as well. I think I'm on Stitcher and some other stuff as well. You can connect with me on the internet as well. You can catch me on Instagram at the real Nathaniel Brown. I always pretty much answer all of my DMs. I am on Clubhouse. You can just look up Nathaniel Brown, and Alakananda will have my entire like sheet of my with all of my contact stuff. So if I mess something up, it's just because I got too many accounts and I can't keep up with them. But that's a good place to catch me. You can catch me on LinkedIn, as we are today on LinkedIn Live. Just type in all the LinkedIn stuff and / the Perspective Coach, and that'll pull up my profile. Also on the internet, you can go to www.theperspectivecoach.us. You can go there. You can tab on podcast and interview tab and see all the places that I've been as I continue to upload them and things of that nature, as well as click on that take action tab, book a session with me, a one-on-one where we just kind of talk through stuff, help you get some vocabulary and get some new meaning around the things you've experienced and how you can use those things as tools. When you pare them down, when you take a boulder and pare it down, you've got a sculpture, right? When you take iron and molten iron and you pare it down, you've got a tool in your hand, a wrench, a hammer, a screwdriver. All it is someone took something that was monumental, that was big, and put it into an environment where they can pare it down so we can re-see things differently.
Thank you for all the information, Mr. Nathaniel. A powerful parting word from you for the audience.
Oh yeah. My favorite thing right now has been understanding how supernatural we truly are. And I like to leave people with the understanding that being supernatural happens when you recognize that you are naturally super. There is absolutely nothing wrong with any of us. We've just lost connection. And I am here, and mostly like Alakananda and all the people that we're connected to, we're here as pillars to make sure you have space to reconnect with who you are, because you are truly supernatural beings. Ashe, namaste.
Oh my God, this was such a powerful, session. I really enjoyed listening to you. I love every word was so powerful, and I'm sure the audience, those who have heard now and those who will be hearing later on, because we are all in different time zones, and I'm
Yeah,
sure everybody is just going to get truly drawn into what you are saying, just the way I did.
awesome.
Nathaniel.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Nathaniel. And in the end of all my shows, I just have a little fun factor, which is the speed round, the rapid
Hmm.
fire round.
Hmm. Hmm.
That is, if you are ready, then I will ask
I'm
you
ready.
this quickly. Yeah?
I'm
Okay.
ready.
Just to end it with a little bit of a lighter note, a little fun.
Okay. Yeah.
So I will ask you two words and you can just speak, right?
Okay.
So here it goes. Listen to heart or listen to mind?
Both.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Because the mind is the field that holds the seeds that the heart seeks to carry out. So
Oh,
So
Beautiful.
the mind, we need the mind as a backdrop because everything happens out of mind. Mind is desire. It is all those things that make up the universe. It's all infinite possibility. It's the pool of information that's not attached to intention. It's the ground you when you walk outside. It's not doing anything for you until you put a seed in it, and then it starts to give you back what you planted. So we need the mind because what you've planted, your heart will have to lead you into the experience of. So mind and heart are both necessary. So I say both.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, coffee black or coffee with cream and sugar?
Neither, because I don't drink coffee. But for my wife,
Oh,
cream and sugar. For my wife, definitely cream and
okay.
sugar. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, beach or mountain?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with the beach.
Okay.
I like
Awesome.
both. I like both, but
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the beach. Yeah, because I like the sound of the
Okay.
water. Yep.
So autumn or
Hmm.
spring?
I'm gonna go with
Both are
autumn.
colorful.
Oh,
Okay.
I love autumn. I love the fall. It's my favorite time of year because it represents transition. You actually see
Yes, yes, yes.
visible
I wanted to
transition.
ask you what's the perspective to
Hmm.
want,
Yep.
you know,
Well,
to
spring is good. Spring is good because what spring does is it brings us the fruit of what winter has preserved. The purpose of
mm,
winter is to bring temperatures down to a degree so that energy isn't being wasted. Right. So the trees go to sleep. They don't have to produce leaves. They don't need to produce fruit. They don't need to expend the energy to do that. And everything is dormant. What that does is that gives the tree time to let go of dead things. So we need winter, but also the things that we planted in the cooler season germinates during the winter because it's protected from anything else. It's in the ground. And by the time spring comes, that's not the time to plant. That's the time to harvest. That's the time to take action and do the things that we know we need to do to enjoy the fruits of the labor during the hard season. So
mm,
springtime is important. And then when fall comes, it's like this easement into the rainy season. We know that abundance, fall is the time of year when we celebrate abundance. It's the harvest festival of the Native indigenous people.
yes,
It was done so in the harvest time during the fall because that's when you had the time and the space to enjoy all the fruits of your labor from the summer because you toiled so hard in the hot sun. So fall is necessary. Everything seems to have its place when you have the
please.
perspective of its pillar. It's a
Yes,
pillar looking to hold space for stuff to happen in.
yes. There are a lot of there's a lot of meaning behind, you know, autumn as well, because that's the time, you know, we connected to so many things, you know, shedding off the negativity, and then but you
Mm-hmm.
still stand strong and then you grow
Yep.
new leaves.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there's a lot of meaning to that. Okay.
Yep.
End or beginning?
End. And I say that because that's actually where everything starts. The why of life is mastering why things are as the way they are. Creation is a closed system. It's that nothing new is actually being created. Everything that ever shall be is already. So when I look at it as a complete statement, the goal technically has already been reached. The goal was to get here. The journey is in understanding why, and that's the mastery portion of the leg of the journey. So I mean, I go with the end because you can start at the end and work your
Okay.
way through to the beginning,
Okay.
say, okay, this is how it started, and you can change beginnings depending on what path you decide you want to take. So it makes it like I can do whatever I want because that's the play. That's what children do when they play. They already have the thing in mind that they're creating. It's already there. It starts with the end product. And then they say, okay, this is my idea. That's idea. Now let's work out the idea. That's living.
Board games or puzzles?
Ooh, puzzles.
Okay. Vacation
I,
or staycation?
I'm a, I don't, that's a good one. I'm going to say staycation.
Okay.
I like the I like both, but I kind of like being close to the house just because I want to be able to take care of things as they need to be. And because I do voiceovers and stuff like that, it just kind of puts me closer to my studio where I can record and get things sent out. Yeah.
Okay. This you have already told in the very beginning, but I'll ask you once again. Reading or listening to music?
Ooh, reading all day. It's
You
reading.
already
I can read all day. I mean, I've hundreds of,
lovely.
of of titles in my Audible account right now, and just like listening to all of the the nuggets that the leaders that have gone before us have been able to leave behind, because success truly does leave clues. And if we're astute enough and curious enough to look for those cues and be able to use them and then apply them, we can have the same success as others have had before, if not more, because we are living in an expansive understanding of reality.
And meditation or mindful.
Mindfulness. I feel like mindfulness is meditation. And like I say that because you said meditation, right? Meditation get is the practice of us getting good at living. It helps us get really good at being mindful, because like I started a practice at random times. I will eat with a pair of chopsticks, and the reason being is because you can't grab as much food with the tip end of a pair of chopsticks. It requires that you pay attention to what you've placed between the chopsticks as you bring the food to your mouth, and that small level of pause gives me something to be even more grateful for. And like my wife and my son, he would ask, "Why are you eating with chopsticks?" Because I'm actually practicing gratitude for the food that I'm eating. When we shovel food in our mouths, we're not even paying attention to the food that we're eating, and we're not mindful of it. So the food actually can't really do for us what we want, because we're not even mindful of what it's carrying. But when I'm mindful of every morsel, every drop I put in my body, then I am saying, I know that I am putting this in my body, and I know exactly what the outcome of this being in my body is. And I am grateful for that outcome.
Wow, this was really nice. Thanks so much. Thank you for sharing such powerful, inspirational, thoughts that you shared with the audience. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And I really look forward to your new show, Nathaniel. Thanks
Yes.
for joining. And I want to thank everyone who listened, who will be listening. I want to thank Success Psyche for their support always. Nathaniel, it was really amazing and it was really so nice. I wish that this can go on and we can keep
Yeah.
talking. Then again, there is time for everything. So
Of
maybe
course.
another time in future. But it was really wonderful talking to you.
Awesome. Thank you
Very
so much.
powerful.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much for being here.
It's good to connect with you. I'm finding myself, and this is not a thing that I'm trying to create out of the whim here, but I'm finding myself connecting more with women like yourself from Indian descent, from the Indian Vedic culture. And I'm finding a lot of camaraderie. I'm finding a lot of correlation. I'm finding a lot of spiritual relevancy between how you practice and how you show up, and the thoughts that I've been toiling with from the time I was a child, and now I'm an adult and I'm able to express them, and I'm expressing them in a way that I can speak to different cultures and be able to be in the space. So I'm just grateful that you've created a platform for that to happen. Yeah. I know you got a little something in your throat. Get you some water. Look, I stay with water next to me all the time.
I think something called.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, there we go. This is live. This is what we do. This is live humans.
Thank you for being here. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. Yes, thank you.